and is wanting
That's the person I want to talk to.
Right.
You know, here's what I learned: to have relationships with not the yes people. So if the salespeople on this call can pick up one lesson, it's this: don't say yes all the time, because you become white noise. You're one of all those salespeople who say yes. Dare to become the trusted advisor by saying, so I'm gonna throw something out there, and there's gonna be people who don't like, but you know what? Maybe this is our aha moment, that soundbite. So let me adjust my camera a little bit here. Second thing, that person on the bridge, they're a novice. You've probably negotiated 1,000 deals, hundreds at least. Person on the bridge, they haven't negotiated before. So a tactic that would work on them, you would see as laughable. Like, really? You're bringing that stuff to my door? Come on. So the next one they have is the relationship. A crisis negotiator has one job: get the person to safety. That's it. They're not exchanging Christmas cards, right? We're not going to be buddies for the long term. I have to get you to a safe space. Therefore, I can use tools and techniques that are manipulative, because my job is just safety. It's not about the quarterly business review that we're going to meet next time. And I don't want to poke fun at, but the obvious one is I'll talk in my late night radio DJ voice.
Like, or leaving value on the table. What would your advice be to bridge the gap between procurement and sales? And I think you've hit on it.
Salespeople come in and they say, we can give you this service level, and we can give you this warranty, and we can give you this team. Can we have the order? And buyers say, thank you, I like all that stuff. What else you got? Yeah. And then salespeople say, here's what we could do. We could move the delivery day up. Would you like that? And purchasing people says, yeah, I do like that. Thank you. What else you got? And then the purchasing people will say, well, we can give you a discount. Do you like discounts? And the buyers will say, yeah, I like discounts too. Thank you. What else you got? Salespeople tend, and again, so I've done this in more than 30 countries, in maybe 30 industries as well. And we do a role play where we ask people to prepare for negotiation. And on the sales sheet and the buy sheet, the same instruction are there. Make a list of everything you think it will take to close the deal, with rare exceptions. And I'm talking about in a class of 30 people, 2 sellers might say,
welcome to the Tim Castle Show, where I sit down with courageous individuals doing inspirational things around the world. Whether it's AI, crypto, mindset, leadership, negotiation and sales, I've got you covered. I sit at that nexus of disruption and change. I'm loving every second of this. I really do believe this is the most abundant time that we've lived in. And if we harness what's going on correctly, we can build businesses that are going to transform our future and your lives. So come with me on this journey, meet the people. I pull back the curtain, I find out who they really are. I started off building this podcast for my sons as something they could look back on later in life and see the conversations that their dad had with people that he respected and admired, but most of all, get the lessons. And now I'm sharing those lessons with you and the reasons that people have done things, the ambition, the passion, and the hardship and their vulnerabilities. And I actually really enjoy it. This is one of the most special times as I get to sit down with people that I really would love to chat to and ask them the questions that are burning in my mind. If you are the same as me and you're pushing the limits and the edges of what you do, please like and subscribe to the show. It helps me tremendously to get new guests on the show and expand that reach so we can help more people together. Okay, great.
Yeah.
We're in business.
Thanks for your patience.
Yeah.
And thanks for getting up early.
Yeah, no worries. Oh, Mike, I'm always happy to do that. Like if I've got someone like you coming on the show, I am over the moon to get up. I'm an early riser anyway. I'll make it happen.
I'm that annoying person that I wake up when the sun comes up or before.
Yeah.
And I go boop, and I just start going. I don't need coffee or anything.
We're the same kind of person then. Yeah. Yeah.
My wife, she needs a little extra time. So when I wake up, I sneak downstairs
Yeah.
and I'll pet the cat. We have a cat now.
Yeah.
And let's see what else do I do. Oh, I'll unload the dishwasher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll make the coffee. I'll start the coffee, and then
Yeah.
I'll feed the cat. And then my wife will, I'll hear her come downstairs, and I make her coffee, and I put a little cream, a little sugar, and I put it out, and I wait. And then my wife will come around, and she'll see the cat, touch the cat,
Yeah.
and I wait. Then she'll check on my work because I don't know where all the Tupperware and the lids go. I'm not good at unloading the dishwasher, and I wait. She takes her coffee, takes a drink, and says, good coffee. And then I can speak. Because what I've learned over the years is if I talk first, it could be a bad day. So I let my wife have the first word of the morning, and things start off better.
Oh my goodness. I feel like we're living the same life. I'm going to take that tip and run with it, Mike. Because I'm also an early riser and I also don't need coffee to get going. We should probably chat at that time. I mean, I guess looking at our time zones,
Hey,
it's
yeah,
afternoon.
I'll be
We
end of my
can
day, beginning of your day.
we can top and tail basically
I
and just have these chats.
love it.
Which I'm super excited to have you on the show today.
Yeah, I am too. I looked up, and by the way, there's a YouTube up. I have to watch it. I haven't watched the whole thing. It's on being more likable.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I I I wish I had better relationships with people in my life,
Mm,
and I attribute it that I'm not likable enough. Um, and I want to be more likable for the long-term relationships. The short-term, I get good reviews. I'm with people for 2 days in a workshop. I talk to people. I have good interactions in the very short term. It's the long term that I feel like I'm not nearly as good at as I want to be. So I'm gonna see if I can pick up some tips that'll work for the long term as well.
that's it's a really awesome insight that you're amazing short term, but actually generating longevity. That's awesome. To think
What's
about that and then
amazing?
address it.
Everybody, what's the metric?
Mm,
I I'm an introvert, but I lift myself and I will ask questions. I will talk to people.
mhm,
I'll say the first word when I'm at a store,
mhm,
when I'm with a client. I have no problem doing that.
mm,
But I really wish I'm very envious. There's a word, there's jealous and there's envious. Jealous means I don't want you to have it. I want
mhm,
I want to take it from you.
mm,
Envious means I want to have what you have.
mm.
And there's people in my life who are really good at long-term relationships, and I really want to be better at it. So I'm envious of them, of people who can do that. So anyway, I'm gonna go watch the rest of your
That's an
podcasts on
interesting.
that.
Oh man, I love this because that's an interesting thing to double tap on, and I can do some more videos on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
yeah,
if you have any tips for me along the way, or
yeah, man. Oh
I
no,
try to be a lifelong learner about myself as well.
I can see that. That's the introspection is what's piqued my interest because I think like just looking at your profile and obviously wanting you to come on the show and knowing your background, you could assume that that wasn't the case. You know what I mean? You're very successful. You've done many different companies. Now you've been training in negotiation, connection, human empathy, all of those things. And you've lived it at the coalface, right? So you could assume that one is kind of at a place where you don't have those self-inquiry mechanisms. So
Yeah,
that's exciting.
being complacent, or that old, well, clearly I know what I'm doing because I've made it this far. Sure, but then the performance curve suffers if you don't keep
Yeah.
pushing yourself. The whole AI thing,
Yeah.
if we don't keep embracing and learning, then it's just going to roll us over.
Mm, hmm hmm Yeah. I almost don't want to do an introduction because this has been so fluid already. I'm just like, this is
Hey, it's your show. You already made me feel very comfortable and open. So yeah,
Because,
sure.
what you've been saying is amazing, and also that wife coffee tip, I definitely want to steal because my wife will wake
It
up.
works in business too. I worked with Mark
Yeah.
Stolarczyk. He was a peer of mine at MGM Resorts, and I was in at 7, and Mark was in at 9. and I'm not saying I worked more hours than him, but that was just his when he would get there, and I would be 2 hours in and multiple coffee in, and one day he just said to me, "Will you please let me have a cup of coffee first?" And I'm like, "Got it." He's boop, check a little box. Don't talk to Mark until he talks to me.
You clocked it and you understood his lens on the world, and then you used that to. So, question: do you think that's what negotiation influence really is? It's really understanding people's sensitivities to things and then working around them. Like, what's your like? Are you a chameleon? Like, is that how you influence?
That's a very interesting phrase. I used to think of myself as a chameleon. I'd worked in startups, in manufacturing, in government work, in Six Sigma shops, and when I was at MGM, I was told about once or twice a year that this exact phrase, "You don't fit in here,"
Whoa.
and I took great offense to that, and worked. I'm like, "What do you mean I don't fit in?" And so I started to do the things that everyone else was doing, and start to. We all wore suits, and then if you had cufflinks on, and the things that the executives would all do, I would try to copy that with my own flair, of course. And then I found out there were some things that I didn't have the same ethical lens. And
Mm.
somebody came in my office and they said something about you don't fit in here, and I said, "You're right." And Ryan looked at me and he said, "Mike, well, are we on the same page here?" And I said, "Yeah, Ryan, we're on the same page. I do not fit in here." And he thought I was going to just lose it. And I'm like, no, I got it. Everybody's got different cultures and different lenses. And after 4.5 years in, I realized that I didn't belong there.
Mm.
So off I went. But that's a whole story of negotiating with guys who taught me to negotiate, and that's where I am now. So
So today's guest is someone who spent decades in the trenches doing billions of dollars in deals. Like you know me, I'm all about negotiation, influence, persuasion. Today I've got a master of the craft talking to Mike Inman, a global negotiation expert, coach, and trainer who's led negotiations across 6 continents. I think that's the whole of the world. Maybe not Antarctica, I'm not sure.
yeah,
Have I missed one? Yeah, is it 7?
maybe
Um,
maybe 8 with yeah, Oceania.
Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah, pretty much 80% we can say of the globe, and shaped procurement and sales strategies for some of the world's biggest corporations, including MGM Resorts International, GM, American Airlines. I think there was a company, a part of American Airlines in that, and IAC. Like, you've been there, you've trained thousands of professionals to create tons of value at the table. And you don't just teach negotiation, you live it. And I can sense that already talking to you for the last 20 minutes. Like, it's just been, this is a felt thing. You live it, and you've been in high stakes deals and boardrooms, cross-cultural deal making. Your insights cut straight to the heart of what makes people tick. I get it. Like, you're right there. And you can see what makes deals work and what separates the amateurs from the pros. And I have listened to a few of your interviews and a lot of your work. And I'm very excited to dig in, because I think we are kindred spirits in some of the key mistakes, I'd say, that negotiators make. But firstly, welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, Tim, thanks for having me. I'm super excited. I've seen your prep work, and I know you're a pro at this. And as far as negotiator goes, hey, you get to be in some world-class cities and work down some world-class deals yourself. So I'd looking forward to swapping stories with someone else who's been in the seat.
That's it. And it is definitely a seat, because you've worked some big names, some big roles, head of global procurement for MGM, like, and that doesn't come out with its challenges, right? You've done that's billions of dollars in deals with a lot of pressure. I know that you love to protect your team. I know that you've got a lot of advice, and the show's listeners, Mike, they're entrepreneurs, they're professionals, probably aged between 30 to 50. They're looking to accelerate their careers, and at the same time pick up this meta skill that we all know is the number one skill that you can learn. But to kick things off, I know you have this rich background. You've got an engineering degree, you've got procurement roles, you moved into sales, you've done a bit of that, and then now you're a full-time negotiator training corporations. What was the first big deal you did that made you realize that, negotiation was the thing for you and to move into it full time?
So, so there's a progression. Every deal I'm working on is new and exciting, and I have a passion for it. Um, I remember being in sales, working for a company called Kenmar, and I sold into Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors. And getting the renewal means they like you, they still like you, and they need to keep the business, and that's really important. Keeping, putting up the firewall and saying nobody can take this from us. And then there's when you win the new order for the first time, and there's a euphoria there. You call your wife up and you say, put something nice on, we're going out to dinner. And after
I love that
3 years of doing,
I love that moment. So does she.
well, and on the sales side, there is a euphoria that there is an equivalent on the purchasing side that I have found
Right.
anyway. But after 3 years of doing sales related deals, I decided that I was average at best as a salesperson. So I wanted to learn more about being a better salesperson. And my boss, actually, long story, but he got me a job at General Motors as a buyer. And then the euphoria on purchasing side negotiations was different than on the sales side. I wouldn't even look at the bids that came in. I'd just let them stack up on my desk. And I would just wait for the salesperson to call and check on, hey, we sent in our bid a few days ago and we were just wondering, how did we look? I used to be the guy that would call in desperation and say, how are we doing? And when I got that call from purchasing, and without even looking at the bid, I would say, are you kidding me? You're way too high. Hang up. And they'd call back later that day and say, I negotiated internally with finance and I could get you an 8% discount. How does 8% sound? And without looking at the bid, I would say 8. Pfft, you got to be double digits if you're serious about this order. And I'm going to use this word very carefully. I would manipulate sales guys like I used to be manipulated as a sales guy. And after 6 months of doing that, I realized that is not healthy. That is not, there's a short-term woohoo win, I got them, I beat them, that comes with that. But I realized I can't do that.
So what do you mean by
General
not
Motors,
healthy? Expand on that point, because I get it, like being in sales.
General Motors drove hundreds, if not thousands of suppliers out of business. Closed the doors with those type of negotiation techniques. And the ones that stayed doing business with General Motors, like we had philosophy. Hey, our volume keeps your lights on. We're important. Look at, a small deal for me would have been $16 million, right? As a buyer, entry-level buyer, I could sign $1 million as long as it was approved in the budget. I was important. And what I realized was that abuse, suppliers stopped bringing General Motors innovation. How do you value innovation? I don't know, but the quality ratings started to go down. People started seeing GM as a world leader, more as the cheap car that you had to buy if that's all you could afford. And then the Toyotas and Hondas and the Lexuses and the premiums just ate away at the Cadillac market share, and it was not good for business. So after 6 months of beating up suppliers, I decided I'm better than that. I don't like myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to study negotiating. I read books on negotiating. I took classes like the one I now teach. And from that point forward, forget the negotiation side for a moment. For your listeners that are into it for their career. My career went from a buyer to a manager to a director in the GM system, moved over to West Airlines, which is now American Airlines, and had all the indirect spend there. I did online auctions for them, so I was familiar with the ethics and the strategy and the tactics of the online world. We can get to that on the AI later. And then I moved to IAC Interactive Corp, where it was my first head job, where I had all the purchasing for, we owned Expedia, Match.com, Hotels.com, Ticketmaster, Home Shopping Network. And my job there was to get everyone to negotiate internally and then go negotiate with our suppliers with one voice. And then my last job before joining Tableforce was with MGM Resorts. And I got to do things like marketing and HR systems and food and beverage, things that purchasing, buying the brooms and nuts and bolts didn't traditionally touch. So for me, the excitement is applying this skill set of negotiation in a positive sense. There's manipulation in negotiation, and then there's what I prefer, the positive sense. And then there's doing it in all these new areas where I get to learn about them while I'm bringing some value to the table for the team that's negotiating. Sherry Gilligan was our head of marketing at MGM, and she was like, Mike's my contract guy. And I was like, yeah, I got the head of marketing to embrace procurement in a positive way. She wouldn't go to meetings with suppliers unless I was there. Like that's in my career, there's promotions and then there's relationships. And that was pretty cool to earn that status.
That's a big deal.
With marketing, that's a big deal because marketing does not like anybody touching their stuff. No disrespect, not that anybody likes people touching their stuff, but marketing is one of those relationshipy, touchy-feely, C-level stuff that as an engineer, it's really hard to objectively approach it. But we got there.
You were in the inner circle.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And you were seen as a value creator. But that's down to your experience there and knowing, going from GM where you were essentially a bully, but at the same time you were leveraging your power, right? You were huge, but it bit GM in the end, right? Because the
long term, yeah, short term, you got cost savings goals. You squeeze it. We went down to 10,000th of a penny in negotiating. Getting price. Well, when you buy 1 million parts a year, do the numbers, and that 10,000th of a penny becomes $10,000, and whose sheet of paper does that end up on? Mm-hmm. Now, in hindsight, no one was really calculating it down to the 10,000th of a penny. Come on, they were just putting numbers in a spreadsheet, and they're probably rounding up.
But the cool thing is again, back to our point on introspection, you sensed in yourself, because I'm just thinking there are people in procurement, there's people in jobs where they get told this is the way we do things. And what you're showing us here is there is a better way, there's a bigger way, there's an expand the pie way to do negotiations that through movies and through certain cultural and company, what can we say? Not values, but approaches, aggressiveness, like the way that this is how we do it. This is how we negotiate. It may not be taught like that, but you pick it up, right? That people have this idea that that's how you negotiate. And yet what you're sharing here is there's a way to do it at a much, much greater level where you can get alignment across your team and you can all sing from the same hymn sheet. You can create more value.
Tim, you nailed it. There's cultural differences. There's American style versus an Asian style. And I always get the pronunciation wrong in China. It's Guanxi, where we're going to do things for each other, not as a tactical quid pro quo, but I'm going to introduce you to somebody because you have a need. And in the future, there's going to be a payoff because we have put this together and done this for each other, for a relationship builder. Whereas in the States, it tends to be a little more tactical and short-term thinking. Next quarter, that's it. That's as far as we think. But yeah, I think in the movies, that culture, and let's be honest, American is the leader in movies around the world in content, even if we subtitle it and change the language, and AI is coming for that too. So it tends to be that gotcha moment. Aha. And in the States, hey, I know you've got global listeners, they'll appreciate this. My fellow countrymen do not like this. We're some of the worst negotiators in the world. Bar none.
Because of the way that it's portrayed and then copied and the dopamine hit of like, we absolutely killed them on that deal.
Everybody wants to win. Don't hear something. I mean, there's no one, it's okay for us to take a loss. No, everybody likes their own win.
Yeah.
So everyone's trying to win, but when you win and the bigger winner you are, that by default means there's a loser. And the bigger loser they are. So we get into these competitions about the perception of winning. I am perceived to be the biggest winner. Therefore I'm a big winner. And then I get more TV shows and then I get more appearances and then and things go viral and then they take that one little clip and they put, now this is how you negotiate. See, they got them. And it's like, okay, and that's a short term. Maybe.
But actually, Mike, that's a really good point. And I think we both know people that are doing that. And there's a game there. There's a game there in self-help. There's a game there in any aspect. But let's just stick on negotiation. There's a game. We can play the system. We could do a soundbite right now and say something outrageous that goes viral just because that was the goal of this show versus actually truly helping people become better negotiators. And
Tim, I saw a guy on TikTok, and I'm on TikTok now, which means sell your stock. Like it's all over. When guys my age get on TikTok, but they were giving career advice, and they were on stage, or it looked like they were on stage, and they said, now here's what you do. See, in the interview, when they ask you a question, you don't answer it. You take control, and and the audience was applauding him. So I'm like, that's interesting. I've hired a lot of people. I've gotten a lot of jobs. My jobs didn't come from people taking me with them. My jobs come by, I hit the apply button. I had to go through that big funnel to get there. So I looked the guy up. He has never had a job that he's posted on LinkedIn that I'm sure he's had jobs. He gets paid somehow, some way, but there is no job in a corporate sense that he did that in an interview and he got a job. So what I hate, and I don't want to be the angry old guy yelling at the clouds. When these sound bites go out there and they sound good, do they really work in the real world? And that's where I go, whenever you hear advice from anybody, and we can all learn from each other, always go into their LinkedIn profile.
Mm-hmm.
See, have they had a level of success so they know where they're coming from, what is successful, or have they had a whole bunch of failures? Now that might mean they're smart, because we can learn from our failures.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're giving you advice on what not to do, and they've had a bunch of failures, you might want to listen. They might say, hey, I did this and it was a failure. But at the end of the day, if somebody has had no resemblance, or that they're proud enough to put it out there, why would you listen to them? Like, when there's so many good people like yourself who have had a career and is trying to give advice, I want to listen to more guys like you and less people who have no semblance of a career. But the young people don't know that. All they see is, there's 1.5 million views. This must be good.
Mm-hmm. Which is gained as well. And then they end up copying tactics and strategies that are for short-termism that don't actually work, that backfire, but it's too late at that point. Keep to fail, and then they probably tap out on negotiation. And they're missing this meta skill that even we'll get into AI in a minute, but like the fact that AI is coming is a good thing for people who want to learn how to influence and persuade in deal making right now. Like it's a beautiful opportunity to get into this. So what would be something that you would tell your younger self? I know you've highlighted some lessons just there in that last minute.
What would I tell you? Not be a bully. Use that word. I'm gonna back you up. I was a bully when I had the leverage, and to pay attention to more people who already had a career, who were doing the things that I aspired to do one day, at a certain level,
and
versus the sound bites.
So
there's things that are famous.
Behavior.
Yeah, there's famous advice that's out there, and a lot of it's really good still. And then there's advice that sounds really good, or it's it's particular to a situation. So I'm gonna throw something out there, and there's gonna be people who don't like, but you know what? Maybe this is our aha moment, that soundbite. So let me adjust my camera a little bit here. I'm gonna take some of this stuff off, and I'm gonna go through something, because you'd ask some questions about this. I want to go through, if I pop over here, and I want to go through the difference between a crisis negotiator and a business negotiation. And there's techniques that are very effective in one, and that can actually hurt you in the other. So, for example, first of all, let me say this: if somebody's on a bridge at 3 a.m., I don't want that phone call. I'm not emotionally equipped. I know the tools and techniques. I've read all the books. I've seen the movies. I've read, I've heard, listened to, and I don't want that pressure. I mean, for me, pressure is there another zero on the deal? No big deal. It's just a zero. It's dollars and cents. Don't ever fall in love with something that can't love you back. Crisis negotiators are negotiating when love is on the line, with someone's loved one. But the difference is this, or one of the differences is this. First of all, they're working with somebody who is, let me turn some of these off here. The person on the bridge at 3 a.m., they're irrational, right? They're mentally, they are operating in an irrational state. Their hormones are going, the biology is going. I know in negotiations in business, people act irrationally, and all decisions have some level of emotion to them. But on the chart, on the bell curve, people on the bridge are highly emotional, irrational. Second thing, that person on the bridge, they're a novice. You've probably negotiated 1,000 deals, hundreds at least. Person on the bridge, they haven't negotiated before. So a tactic that would work on them, you would see as laughable. Like, really? You're bringing that stuff to my door? Come on. So the next one they have is the relationship. A crisis negotiator has one job: get the person to safety. That's it. They're not exchanging Christmas cards, right? We're not going to be buddies for the long term. I have to get you to a safe space. Therefore, I can use tools and techniques that are manipulative, because my job is just safety. It's not about the quarterly business review that we're going to meet next time. And I don't want to poke fun at, but the obvious one is I'll talk in my late night radio DJ voice. Now, if I'm a purchasing guy, let's go back to the real world, Tim. You're in sales. I'm in purchasing. I've seen your competition, so I've probably seen at least 2, maybe up to 5 people who do the exact same thing that your products and services do. I've seen them all this week, and all, or the other 4 come in with, "Hi, Mike, how are you today?" Or, "Mike, it seems like the budget is an issue for you." Now, the third time I see that, I go, "Oh, you're labeling and you're using late night radio DJ voice." Now the risk is this: you are being disingenuous. You're doing the same. You think it's me and you that are negotiating, and I only see you because you only see me. I've seen your competition. I've seen it, and if it's not your competition, I've seen it on the other 3 RFPs that I'm working on my desk. I've seen those salespeople, because you all read the same books, and then you all think you can trick the buyer by using these techniques that worked in a crisis. That in business, it's like, guys, I've seen this before. Don't stop it, please. So now you've hurt the relationship because my assumption is you're trying to trick me.
The word trick is
right?
important there. Like, that's, you said it, you hit it, like that tricking.
Right? So as soon as you try, now I'm not saying that people don't slow down and people don't lower their voice. Don't hear something I'm not saying. People do that naturally and in the right moment, the right time. And you could make the argument the really good tricksters can fake the right time in the right moment. But what I'm saying is, if you use these tools and techniques all the time, we buyers, we figured it out. We're not dumb. So the next one I want to point out is crisis negotiator can't lose. The book, right? Never Split the Difference. You can't lose. You bring home an arm, it's a bad day for everybody.
True.
In business, I'm going to make the argument that too many deals happen that shouldn't happen. Salespeople give away everything to win the order. Then they go back to their team and they go, "Hey, we won." And finance goes, "We can't make any money on this." And sales goes, but we won. They like me. And the project management team goes, "Yeah, but now we have to work overtime, and now we have to move some things around, and this is going to be really hard, and we can't make any money. Well, why is this a good deal?" And the seller goes, "But I made my numbers." So there's deals that sell, and I love salespeople because they think they can win every deal, and they think they should win every deal. And I'm here to tell you, there are deals you should walk away from because they're not good business. Okay. So, but as a crisis negotiator, there's no way you can ever say, "Get out of here. I don't think you're really going to jump." You cannot dare the other side to walk away because a life is on the line. In business, some dollars are on the line. No big deal. So the last thing I want to point out, because I learned this from a crisis negotiator, 94% success rate. And I was already communicating with him separately, and I said, "Hey, I just saw the study. You guys have a 94% success rate. That is amazing. How do you do it?" And he goes, "How do you think we do it?" And I said, "Well, I think you train a lot, you practice, you have very disciplined techniques, all the things a negotiator should have, but you guys do it for a living, for a job." And he said, "Nope, you're wrong." And I said, "Well, why is it?" And he said, "Well, We have a 94% success rate because when the person calls us, it's a question of time. They've already decided they want help. If they were going to end it, they wouldn't have called. So once they call, we just have to be patient and wait and listen and not screw it up.
Sure.
But they will eventually talk themselves into a more rational place. So anyway, that was, the difference between the crisis and the business is so important. And I get in trouble because the crisis people don't like me saying that. And I'm like, I'm telling you guys, you're the best in the world. And I'm telling you guys what you do is really important. But please listen when I tell you, you are risking relationships when you tell people, do this thing and you'll close every deal. Now, you may sell them books. Good for you. You won in the short term. But in the long term, you're hurting people's career, or potentially.
Massively. And I applaud you for pointing it out. And I think when you point out that, B2B negotiations versus all those 5 steps, right? The call's been made. The person mentally, subconsciously, it's a cry for help. And at the same time, you could screw it up. It could 6% go wrong, but 94%, if you don't do it and you're good at what you do, you will achieve the goal. Versus a B2B negotiation, which it's not short term. There's a long-term play there. There's every single one of those points that you shouldn't. And the biggest part is that I think, again, I want to amplify and make sure people catch on, is that you're sitting there as the procurement guy or the person with the decision, just the decision-making power. And you've seen what's been submitted, and you've got 4 copycats and then 1 differentiated person that's actually thought about your business, understands how to solve your problems, and is one.
That's the person I want to talk to.
Right.
You know what, here's what I learned. To have relationships with not the yes people. So if the salespeople on this call can pick up one lesson, it's this: don't say yes all the time.
Yes.
Because you become white noise. You're one of all those salespeople who say yes. Dare to become the trusted advisor by saying, Mike, I'm going to propose exactly the way you asked me to, but I think there's a different way for you to look at this. I'm going to propose I'll put a second proposal in, and I want you to spend 3 minutes on it. And then you better front load exactly. What I learned to do in purchasing was to tell salespeople, if you were in my job, what would you do differently? And then listen to what the salespeople had to say. And there's multiple ways of saying that. One way is, what are we doing that's stupid? You can say that to purchasing people. Should say that to salespeople. Or if you don't want to say stupid, what are we doing? I'm sorry. What are your best accounts doing that's different than us?
That's cool.
Why are they different? If you were in my role, how would you change things? If you could approach it with that mindset, figure out your own language, but be the salesperson who's willing to say, I don't think this is the best way for you to do it. In a kind, courteous way, not being rude or disrespectful. I think that's a differentiator for salespeople that could really make a difference to the relationship and to long-term both revenue and margin, which should be important metrics for every salesperson on the planet.
So to pick up on that, then, you've got margins, you've got revenue. Salespeople are potentially giving away too much value because they need to secure the deal, because they can talk about that deal that they secured in their next quarterly review, which, hey, I got the deal. Oh, I gave away 10 of the thing I was supposed to give only 1 away of. Where are they conceding? Like, how are they eroding margins? Or leaving value on the table? What would your advice be to close or bridge the gap between procurement and sales? I think you've hit on it, a bit there.
Salespeople come in and they say, we can give you this service level, and we can give you this warranty, and we can give you this team. Can we have the order? And buyers say, thank you. I like all that stuff. What else you got? And then salespeople say, here's what we could do. We could move the delivery day up. Would you like that? And purchasing people says, yeah, I do like that. Thank you. What else you got? And then the purchasing people will say, well, we can give you a discount. Do you like discounts? And the buyers will say, yeah, I like discounts too. Thank you. What else you got? Salespeople tend, and again, so I've done this in more than 30 countries, in maybe 30 industries as well. And we do a role play where we ask people to prepare for a negotiation. And on the sales sheet and the buy sheet, the same instruction are there. Make a list of everything you think it will take to close the deal, with rare exceptions. And I'm talking about in a class of 30 people, 2 sellers might say, I want a long-term deal. The list of the sales is stuff to give. So before negotiations ever begin, salespeople think, I'm going to approach this negotiation. What do I have to give away to close the deal? Now, ask the same question. Make a list of everything it'll take to close the deal. You give it to buyers. This isn't professional buyers. This is working professionals in a buying role of a role play. They make a list of stuff to take. I want to take the discount. I want to take an extended warranty. I want to take the service level. So now let's transfer this to the real world. If salespeople tend to think about showing up to give things away, and buyers tend to think about showing up to negotiation to take things, well, one side gives, the other side takes. This is where deals become imbalanced. So as a salesperson, we need to think about, if I can do better, you can do better. Or if you can do better, I can do better. Meaning I can give you a discount if I get a longer term deal. I can give you an extended warranty if I get insight into the warehousing. I got a client that I'm trying to help out. They have a 5-year warranty. However, it's a defense contract, and it's for a Navy in this world where the parts sit in a dock for 5 to 7 years, but the clock on the warranty doesn't start until it goes into service. Now, you take a product, you put it in a damp warehouse, the Navy, carts getting pushed around, humidity, water's everywhere. That you cannot accept that from a warranty perspective. The clock has to start ticking when it leaves your dock, not when it goes into service. That's a negotiable point when the warranty clock starts to tick. Most salespeople, no disrespect to your profession, Tim, they're not compensated on that. They're compensated on revenue goals, margin goals, closing more deals. So they'll give away warranty and they won't even think about the clock start ticking. And buyers will gladly take it. Meanwhile, between the two companies, huge value gets shifted on this little minor term or condition that people aren't really paying attention to. Does that resonate with some of the stuff you've heard from the sales side?
Right. I think that's one of the coolest examples I've heard of just showing how companies internally, due to there's value just to be created by two business units talking, collaborating, and then KPIs, the right KPIs being set, that if you can create that value and millions of dollars of value is created, and a salesperson can hit a target because they helped to get that in collaboration with a buying or a procurement department, and they can get comped on that. Salespeople go all in for the things they're going to get comped on, right? They're going to follow the KPI, right? So, but it comes down to whoever's in charge of both business units to see that, to have the foresight to go, here's where the value's being lost. It might play out 7 years later or longer, but if we capture that and we change that negotiation point and we work together, we can nail heaps of, millions and millions of dollars.
God bless the HR people putting comp plans together, because they're really complicated as well as compensation. But darn it, there's a lot of value in there that can be given away, and no one's even paying attention until 5 years later when the warranty claims start to hit. Well, meanwhile, that VP of sales has moved on.
Correct.
That salesperson who closed the deal has moved on. Who is left? A new salesperson. And now you have to renegotiate, or you have to say no. It's a really complicated problem, short-term versus long-term negotiating.
It's really tricky. And head of sales, VP of sales is they want to go to President's Club. They want to keep their reputation going. They want to keep moving up and keep hitting it and buying that house and doing that. This reminds me of a story I heard that you talked around one of your proudest moments being that you're in a company and you managed to not let any of your team members go, even though the company wanted 10% layoffs. And you talk through that. That was awesome.
I'm giggling because right after I did that, so 15 years ago, Harvard called, and they were looking for examples of managing layoffs. And I said, I finally figured out how to not lay people off. And then I told them the story that I'm going to tell you right now. And I didn't make the paper. They were so unimpressed. So don't, let's not have high expectations that I've got some magic.
I'm impressed, Mark. I'm impressed.
Because I think it might have been too simple or too daring. But here's what happened.
Daring.
So so through my career as a seller and buyer, I was able to not be laid off 15 times. Lots of good people get let go for sometimes good reasons, sometimes for bad reasons. But I was lucky enough to make it through. As I progressed through management, I had a lot of good. I had to is the wrong word. I let a lot of good people go, and it really hurt me, not as much as it hurt them. I'm sure, but it was hard. So at MGM, we were flush with cash when I got there, and then when the 2008 crisis happened, we were almost bankrupt. In fact, helicopters were circling, going to do an expose on our CEO, and we saved the company from bankruptcy. Through that process, one time we were told, you'll lay 10% of your people off. Now, we weren't overstaffed. Most purchasing departments aren't. And we had massive savings goals. And so my boss, Jeremy, who I mentioned, he's in Singapore now. He came to all of us and he said, I want to see a plan tomorrow for who we're going to let go. So the next day I walk in and he said, what's your plan? And I said, I'm not letting anybody go. And he said, wait, no, I told you I want a plan to see which 10. And Jeremy, I want to live in the world between his ears. He is one of the nicest. I haven't met anyone nicer than Jeremy. And he's also in that smartest person in the room. So he's nice and he's smart. Anyway, so he said, Mike, no, seriously, I want to know who you're going to let go. And I said, I'm not letting anybody go. I said, we've got these savings goals. We're already at a skeleton staff. Give me a savings target. And at the end of the year, if I haven't hit it, you can fire me. And Jeremy paused. Now, Corey Sanders was in charge of this whacking of people initiative. And he looked at me and he said, Mike, you know Corey will just whack you. Like if you don't hit your goal, you know you're gone. And I said, I know I'm gone. Got it. I'm a dead man walking. But I want a year and I want a savings goal. And you give me those two things and let's see what happens. And we made it. We exceeded our goal. And we didn't lay anybody off. So if I could, share anything with anybody who's in a situation where their company's in dire straits, is show that your people deliver value to the shareholders, and not the intrinsic value. Oh, people like us more. That's great, but if you can't measure in dollars and cents to shareholders, if you don't have enough money in the bank to make payroll, then all the long-term value goes out the window. So you have to balance it, but you got to be able to show as a salesperson that you're closing deals that have enough margin to cover your salary, to cover your boss's salary, to cover your team's salary, to cover the production team's salary, to pay for the overhead. If you can show that value, then you can protect people. But you also have to be able to say, I'm willing to put skin in the game. And, you can call it arrogance if you want, but at the end of the day, I was already getting tired of working there. So if I got let go, that's a whole different story too. I got offered an employment contract. A big deal. You want an employment contract. And I looked at the contract and the terms were, you couldn't work anywhere within, I want to say 100 miles of Las Vegas. So I couldn't work for any competitors. And they would pay me if they fired me through the end of the contract. And anyway, those are the two big ones. And I said, am I in jeopardy of getting fired? And he said, no, we love you. That's why we're giving you an employment contract. And I said, so if I just keep doing what I'm doing, I won't get fired? And he said, well, of course not. Why would we do that? And I said, well, then why do I need a contract? And he looked at me and he paused. And he's like, just take the contract. And I was like, I'm going to put handcuffs on when you're not going to fire me anyway? That was nearing the end of my term. When I didn't fit in, I wouldn't take one for the team because it wasn't in my advantage. There was a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah. And then so that's when you sort of went into this whole world of negotiation training, and you train organizations large and small. What are the biggest barriers you face when getting negotiators to adapt to these new behaviors. Because as we've alluded to, like, there's a way things are done, there's a way things perceived people are, or business deals are done, and then there's people's habits and own personal like objectives in the mix.
I want to address that in two separate answers. There's the micro answer, the personal level, and then there's the macro answer, which is at the company level. And first of all, when I do a session, let's say there's going to be 30 people there. There's going to be some young people fresh out of university there, and I love their energy, and they don't know anything. But I love that they're in the class, and they love that their company is investing in them being there. They're letting them go to training, right? Now, when you get to my age or older, there's some people who are forced to go to training.
Yeah. That's
their
what
boss,
I'm interested in.
Okay, their boss makes them go, so they're gonna go, and I love that person. And I just let it go. I let the hatred, I just let it just soak, and they don't want to be there. Now, and I go through the material, and I remember when I took this class, so I know, I'm confident, I think I know what they're thinking. Why am I here? This isn't going to help me with my job. I don't want to learn from this guy. I already know what I'm doing. I got all that junk in the head, but I let it go. Because in the first role play, I put one of the youngsters that really is there to learn with one of the people who think they know it all. And the young people just steamroll the people who think they know it all. Now, in full disclosure, we have a safe learning environment. When we do our debriefs, you're only allowed to talk about things you did well and things you failed at. You're encouraged to talk about things they did well. And we do not allow negotiator A, who is up against B, to say negative things about B. What I tell them is, on a break, we all deserve a personal coach, but I don't want a public execution of somebody. So what happens is when the numbers all go on the board and they get to see the outcomes, and the people who didn't want to be in that class get exposed. And the young people, you see their confidence, they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I could do this. When I have asked them in private, how'd you do it? They all say the same thing. I just did what you told me to do. So then what happens, there's a unique switch. The people who thought they knew it all lean in. I can see the body language. They come to the table with more bright eyes. Now, as the role plays get more and more complicated through our process, the young people realize they don't know a whole lot. So they actually build a relationship with the people with more seniority who do understand the fine differences. And the people with a lot of seniority who thought they knew it all learn that they should pay attention to the young people who are coming after their jobs. So this relationship gets built, and they learn that they need each other to do better for the company. So that's the micro level. The macro level is this. Senior leadership needs to be on board and to hold people accountable. We have I'll call it a proven ROI.
Right.
When somebody brings us in, there is a measurable lift in revenue and margin, and on the purchasing side, there is a measurable total cost of ownership improvement. So if management says, don't worry about it, that was a great class, the results won't be as good. But if management says, hey, in this week's team meeting, I want to hear about your wins. And it could be really simple stuff. You don't have to give $1,000 prizes. You can give little cups. You give out trinkets and beads.
Yeah.
Something that a cush ball.
Yeah.
If you're in a cube farm and you say, hey, everybody, the best seller this week gets the ball, put it on your desk. Just for the ego, people will compete for that ball. But this is where management has to come up with the philosophy of what is my culture? How are we going to reward the right behaviors? And then have the discipline to reward those behaviors. So those companies, the results go through the roof.
Today I want to share something that's incredibly close to my heart. It's this book here in my hands. It's the First Domino. I wrote this to help you expand into new markets, to make the most of your first 90 days, Whether it's a new role that you've started, whether it's a new team that you've taken on, or your company has launched a new product or service, or you're just a founder and you really haven't landed that first major client yet. Imagine this, you're starting a new job and you're sitting down and you're opening up your computer and you've got 43 new Slack messages, a ton of new emails and content that you've got to learn. The pressure's on. Not only that, but you've got to go out and you've got to meet all these new people, these new staff members, these new clients. But most of all, you've got to add value. And whether you acknowledge it or not, you know the pressure is on. You know that this time is precious and that this company has brought you on for a reason. And you're there to prove that reason. That's one of the reasons I wrote this book. It's something that you can read on the weekend and implement on Monday to guide that process so that you can systematize the process of excelling and bring those trusted relationships forward and move the needle on landing your first major client. This book is going to push you to do anything but be comfortable. It's going to help you get breakthroughs. If we tip that first domino, we're going to get a chain reaction of success. That's why I wrote it. It's a playbook to understand the psychology of sales, the intelligence that you need to build leverage into your sales process. And it's for anyone that wants to do business development, growth, or just build their personal brand and take ownership of the direction of their career, their money, and their life. When you land that first domino, that first major client, I want you to post it up and tag me. If you are bold enough to take on the challenge, to really put it into action, to lead with heart, I promise you, you will change your stars. So if you're looking to create a generational legacy and make an impact, this is the first domino, and it only takes one. Mike, this is so good. This is so good. Especially that bit about the older folks leaning in. Like, I wish I could join. I feel like that's so much fun. Like what you're talking about is so much fun because
I have fun at it. You clearly have fun at it. But let's be honest. There's some people. Look, there's some training that you have to go to. Here's what I know, because I remember when I took this training. 2 days? Oh God, I get 300 emails a day. Oh, I don't want to go do this stuff. So I empathize, we'll talk about that word, with their emotional state. Oh, by the way, you did a piece on responding and reacting too.
Right.
I want to talk about that because that's near and dear to my heart as well. So those are two things that I'd like for us to get to in this conversation, just kind of reinforce what you're already doing.
Let's get there. Let's get into that.
Okay. So the first thing, the reacting versus responding. I say that in every class. There is, but I add one word to each. We can react emotionally or we can respond intelligently. And cool. I think a good negotiator takes in the situation, even if they, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be authentic. If you're really upset, you should have full approval to say, I'm not feeling comfortable right now. I'm going to leave this meeting before I say something that I'll regret later. And those are powerful words. Instead of just saying them, to say, I'm going to leave before I say it. Ooh. And I've actually got a story about a client that happened with. But I absolutely want to reinforce that in one of your other podcasts that I saw. The best people can still be authentic. But instead of letting their reaction and their emotion drive, they internalize and shift toward the intellectual response. That doesn't mean smart. It just means being in control of the words that come out of their mouth. Does that make sense?
There's an emotional maturity to it. And it's the fact that even if you did say, hey, I'm going to step out for a second, what that shows is you respect yourself, right? And in turn, they start to respect you because like, hey, it's easy to blow up. I've seen it. I've been there. I've seen it. I know that the angry boss, you lose a certain, like as the underling, there's a certain level of respect that you lose because you see them blow up. You're like, hey, hang on. You can't control yourself over this. Like, and you go and do multi-million-dollar deals and then this thing happens and then it happens repeated. And you're like, if you just said those words and stepped out and took a breath, hey, you're taking control. You've got control of yourself. You're coming back. You've got emotional maturity and you're able to execute in a way that's meaningful. I love that.
So we had a contract we were negotiating, and it was a classic. It was a commodity item, and they do government work. So we had insights into what they could and couldn't do, and it was phone systems. So it's that type of a commodity, and we first proposal came from the account manager, and then we said, you need to do better, and they brought in their director. So, and then the director did better, and then we said, we need to do better, and they brought in their regional vice president, who gave us more concessions. And then we finally got to their senior vice president of sales. All along the way, we were getting more and more. We were just, taking a little more. Nicely, politely, we were saying, can you do better? And they were just giving us more. So then we had a third party helping us construct it. Because we had, I don't know how many, 50,000 lines or something like that. We had a lot of phone lines and different properties. And anyway, Richard comes in. I won't use his last name. He's retired now, but regardless, he comes in, and we had found contracts from the government, and we knew exactly what their margins were. So we could back in to exactly how low they could go. And we told him, can you get here? And he slammed his hand down on the desk. And he said, I can't get there, because it's a government contract, so he couldn't actually get there. He could get close, but not there. He slammed his hand down. He said, I can't get there. I got to get out of here. And he left. And anyway, 3 years later, he called us in to help with his teams. And as we were doing the scoping, he said, I need to apologize for something. And I said, what's that? And he said, I lost my cool, my composure. You pressed me too far, and I should have been more composed in that situation. I'm sorry. And I said, Richard, do you know what happened on our sheet of paper after you slammed your hand down and walked out of the room? And he said, were you upset at me? Did you lose respect for me? And I said, nope. We said, time to make a decision. Because through the process, we would ask, they would give, we would ask, they would give, ask, give, ask, give, ask, give. When the senior vice president slammed his hands down and walked out, I told my team, we're at the end.
That's a full stop.
I don't want to push them farther because I want them to do business with.
Yeah.
So two sides, the seller reacting emotionally thought they had done something that might hurt the relationship, whereas the intellectual side on the buy side was, I forced them into an emotional situation. I don't want to do that. I want them back at this table.
Yeah. Massive skill set. Absolutely massive skill set. What do you think about? Oh, carry on.
No, I was going to say the second story about me. When I got mad, we had a regional jet that would go around and pick up the players who weren't important enough to fly in the G4. But we could put a regional jet so they wouldn't have to go through TSA. I think it was a 42-seater, right under the TSA limit. So we could put them on this plane in Southern California, bring them in. And they kept screwing up the schedule. Now, these are people who spend tens of thousands of dollars. They're not multi-million-dollar spenders, but they spend a lot of money at a casino. And they think they're very important. They are very important.
Yeah. Context.
And so we kept getting the schedule wrong. And Andrew, one of our commodity manager who handled it, he was trying really hard, and he was in airport ops, and he knew all the right buttons to push, but he wasn't getting results. So I said, I'm going to step in. And Andrew said, no, I can handle it. And I said, no, I know you can handle it. I'm going to be a tool for you. On the wall of tools of a carpenter, right? The carpenter is the negotiator. Andrew was the negotiator. He's in lead of this, but I, as his boss, I said, I'm going to be a tool for you. I'm calling a meeting. Saturday morning, 7 a.m. Everybody's coming into our office. That's it. I put everybody on the to line. I put the exclamation point in caps in my office, 7 a.m. Monday morning. Boom. Email goes out. They all show up. I'm in the meeting. I said, I'm going home. You guys are going to figure this out. Closed the door and left. So I allowed Andrew to say, hey, Mike's so hot he can't even be here. To get them to put in processes and to make changes that Andrew wasn't getting by being nice or even being direct.
Right. That's so interesting. What does the role of empathy have to do then? Because you've mentioned the word empathize before. So how do you empathize with where that?
I was authentically upset. What I hate is when people fake it. When they pound the table. Like, no, I can see right through it. I know when you're faking it.
That's a tactic.
Right. And there's empathy that is, how do I make them feel a certain way? How do I make them feel like I'm listening to them? It seems like budget's an issue. You're damn right budget's an issue. I got a budget, I got to find it. Wait, it seems like it's an issue. I don't want to hear this tactical empathy bullshit.
Yeah.
It's right. You're just pretending.
Yeah. It's
And
fake
then there's,
empathy.
it is fake empathy. You've
Yeah.
probably seen me. I hashtag fake empathy
Oh,
all
is
the
that what
time
you
when I
say?
see
No,
it.
I haven't seen that.
I,
No.
I
Oh,
literally,
cool.
I hashtag, I should have trademarked the phrase tactical empathy is fake empathy. Anyway, there's real empathy. So what I consider real empathy is not the emotional based, but it is the situational based. So for example, if I can understand that this seller will get compensated more if they close the deal in this quarter,
Hmm.
or in next
Yeah.
quarter, whatever time is important to them. If I can understand that maybe being a reference account is good for them. If they're trying to break into an industry, if you're trying to break into gaming, and I'm the head of purchasing at MGM, and you're trying to break in, you've never done business in the gaming industry, I should, as a good negotiator, say to you, hey, Tim, Foursquare, you guys are breaking into the gaming industry. Would it be valuable to you if we did a white paper and then we had co-branded at the top MGM Resorts International Foursquare
Hmm.
together
Hmm.
as co-authoring a paper that we would then publish? Would that have value to you?
Hmm.
Now, a lot of people, salespeople, they love exposure. They love a customer reference. They love publicity. So if I'm willing to help you on that, here's where I need help. I need help on the specifications. I need help on the delivery date. I need help on the team. I need help, of course, on the price. That's always one of the 5 negotiables, but it may not be the 1, 2, or 3 negotiable. But if my empathy extends to, I want to understand how I can help you in business, not how you feel about it, but how I can help your business grow, then I think it's positive empathy for the deal. If we can together make this deal bigger, that collaborative negotiation, then we have more to split up when we do our competitive negotiation, because every negotiation has a little bit of both.
Mike, that's so cool. Everyone needs to have got to this part. I'm going to even put this part at the front so everyone hears this part, because this part is the bit that people will miss. And the fact that you just said, look, price may not even be the number one trade-off or negotiation point. Like, there's things in a deal that people aren't thinking about, and how do you add value and do that? Because you're right, a salesperson that's going to get that awareness and that collaboration and that piece that goes out, that white paper, yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing for them. They can run back and say, I'm doing this huge thing with MGM and we're going to go and it's going to be amazing for us. Like, that's huge
Yeah.
value.
Well, let me tie it back to that word, that F word, the 4-letter F word, fair. That's so commonly, recognized in negotiation. We should be fair negotiators, be fair to each other. But that has a different side of the sheet of paper too. If I'm a buyer and I've got a budget of 100,000, and I've got one supplier quotes 98, one supplier quotes 96, and one supplier quotes 92,000. And you, the salesperson, come in with a proposal at 105,000. Based on the information that I have, I think you're being unfair, Tim. I think you're trying to gouge me. I think you've talked to my engineers and they've told you we really like you, and you have taken advantage of that. You've padded your numbers. That's from my side.
Mm.
Now, what if on your sheet of paper you have one customer that's paying you 118, and another paying you 112, and another that's paying you 110?
Right.
From your sheet of paper, 105 is aggressive.
Yeah.
I'm doing you a solid, Mike. But before you even negotiated, I came in under what I am on a free market getting from other clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be unfair. It's already unfair for me to offer you 105. So we approach it from different perspectives. But if I'm willing to listen to you, why isn't 105 gouging me? And when you say, Mike, that's the lowest price, that's most favored nation pricing,
Mike,
then I go,
this is
oh,
amazing. Mike, this is you know why this is cool? Because you are literally bringing to the table the examples that make it. They're simple examples that simplicity is hard, right? Simplicity, to make examples this in a 1 minute piece, and to give an example to show the two sides and how the mistakes happen. You literally,
yeah.
people are getting so much value just from this. Like, this is amazing.
Well, I'm glad, because I see anybody can take an easy concept and make it complicated.
Yeah, and so many do.
And the more complicated. Oh, listen, there's a whole line of consulting that takes really simple stuff,
Yes.
and they make it really expensive because it's so complicated. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Um,
That's true.
yeah.
What do you I was going to ask about win-win, because it's a in the world of negotiation, there's
Yeah,
you're either side of the coin on that. What's your take?
yeah, yeah. It's not a group hug. Let me tell you what it's not first. It really. Now, I should want you to be happy with the deal. As a negotiator, two things. First of all, I want you to deliver on the value of the products and services that we agreed to. And if went back from my General Motors days, if I beat you up, if I bully you, it's like a giant game of whack-a-mole that you play blindfolded. You don't know where the problem is going to be, and you're just trying to figure it out.
Huh.
So I need for you to be happy. Now, I don't want you in the parking lot high-fiving and popping champagne corks. I don't want you that happy, because I'm trying to do good for my side too. I have shareholders, both shareholders. So yeah, make the other side happy, but do better for our side, I guess is the byline there.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean on the same deal point. If I, to use the other example, if I can be a reference account for you, what can you help me on? I think we get so caught up on the competitive nature of, in every deal point, I have to win every deal point, or I lost that deal point, so I have to win the next deal point. Or let's not do the deal because I haven't won the deal point that I really want. And instead of going, if I can make Tim happy on the top 2 or 3 things on his list, then I need to get happy on at least 2 or 3 things on my list. And they could be, I did a deal at MGM where we had a 68-page agreement we had to get to in about a week before the next board meeting. And I called the lead negotiator in, and I said, listen, we don't have a lot of time. And if this deal is even going to work out, there were some competitive forces in play. I said, if this is going to work out, we're going to have to figure out if the deal can happen or not. So I want you to go in that office, take a half hour. I want you to come back with 3 deal points that are important to you. I'm going to do the same. In a half hour, we're going to change sheets of paper. I am not saying I will do what you ask. I'm saying I will listen to what you're going to ask. And I want you to do the same for me. And at the end of a half hour, we're going to figure out if this deal won't come together, in which case, let's just go away. And we changed sheets of paper. And one of the things on their deal sheet was they wanted a high year 5 revenue. It was a 5-year deal. And one of the things on my deal point was no startup costs. We were almost bankrupt. Now that's natural for a buyer. I don't want any startup costs. Mine was a duh. But when they said high year 5 revenue, I was like, what? Why is that important? And they said, well, we base all of our renewals off the 5th year of the deal. And I said, how dare you assume you're going to get the next deal? You haven't even won this deal.
Right.
They said, oh, Mike, you're going to love us. We're fantastic. Our renewal rates are off the charts. And by the way, once we hook together from an IT backend perspective, it's going to be too costly for you to change.
Golden.
So they basically were the bank and financed the deal. The upfront costs all moved in. And so I actually had finance look at the deal. And it turns out, if you look at the cost of money, that was a bad deal. We should have borrowed money at 18.5%, which we had a bond that would do that, to pay for it upfront rather than their deal, because they were charging us more than that. And Corey Sanders, I think he was CFO at the time, he was in charge of the project at a C-level. He said, take the deal. And I said, no, Corey, maybe I didn't explain it properly, but this is not a good financial equation for us. And he said, Mike, in 5 years, you might not be here. Aldo, my boss at the time, might not be here. And he said, and I might not be here. Take the deal. We took the deal. 5 years later, I was gone. Aldo was gone. Corey was still there. Now, he's a C-level executive, makes a lot of money, got a lot of decisions. I'm sure he figured it out.
Yeah.
He was thinking short-term is more important than long-term in that situation. And maybe there was stuff on his sheet of paper I didn't know. Maybe we couldn't extend the 18.5% bond. There's lots of things you don't know. But anyway, that was a situation there where I'm trying to help the supplier get what they want, and they're trying to help me get what I want, and they're different related deal points.
Different related deal. I love this idea of, and you talk about this a lot, this understand the other person's or the other side's sheet of paper. Like, how does AI?
So that's the empathy.
Well, that's the empathy piece, but like
the empathy is can I understand the technical nature, the intellectual components? What are you trying to accomplish, and why do you need things, and why? If I can understand that from an empathy perspective, I think it's more authentic because now I'm not trying to trick you to
Hmm.
be my friend and be emotional about it. I'm trying to understand how this deal can be better, and then we can split up the value that we create jointly.
Right.
Does that make
So
sense?
you're compressing the time frame, taking half an hour, and then get to a point where you can see the deal points. You see what's important to you, what's important to me. There's reciprocity in that, and there's a shared understanding to try and achieve a common goal from different perspectives, like you say. And that's yeah, I can see how that really works. But like obviously AI's coming in fast, hot, ready, hitting all departments, disrupting along the way. And obviously AI is now analyzing or claiming to analyze tone, body language, events, like even emotions. Like, what do we think about AI when it comes to
Yeah.
negotiation? Like, how's it going to disrupt? What's
Yeah.
the
So I participated in Keld's study when he's published he was going
is
to do a
you
study.
cool?
I immediately
Cool.
jumped on. I'm like, I want in, and he was going to do studying two versus two, no AI,
Yeah.
two versus two, both with AI, and two versus two, one having AI, one not having AI.
Oof.
I said I want to be in the one with, one without, and I specifically want to be without. I want to negotiate against somebody
You want to be that person? Wow.
who is going up against the challenge. The challenge being uh, Ko, my partner Ko, who I'd never met before, was a Brazilian lawyer. We were up against two experienced negotiators, like 30-year guys, like
Mm,
even more than me, using AI. So I want to tell you, my behavior changed. I saw another poll recently. My partner Patrick posted, "Will your behavior change if you find out you're negotiating with AI versus a person?" And I said, "Yes, mine changed. I'm going to, we should say, oh, it shouldn't matter. My behavior changed." So this is how it changed. I said, Kale, hey, listen, these guys really know what they're doing. And now they have this really powerful tool. So part of our negotiation plan, my suggestion is this: we take control of this negotiation. We do not allow AI to drive, to, to put us in a defensive position where we're answering questions. I want to take control of asking the questions, getting AI to answer for us. I want to take advantage of these guys have to listen, and now they have to type, and now they have to read, and now they have to
hmm
respond. I want them on the distracted side of the house versus the focused offensive side of the
hmm
house. So we did our negotiation, and I still haven't seen the line item data. I know what the averages
Yeah.
say, which is the averages, both people using it got done faster. Both people using it, some people didn't get done. Full disclosure, we went right up to the timeline. In fact, they had to say deal or no deal, like take it or leave it. But we got our deal done in the time that we were allowed. And I know that Tim Cummings at WorldCom CC was surprised that we got the deal we got. Um, anyway, it's one of those things where it is coming.
Mm,
I do not use it to post content, to post thoughts, to post um, anything about experience. I do use it as a personal assistant. What I've found is it's a child.
mm.
I don't know why we call it hallucinating. It lies. It it lies to your face, and it's simple stuff. It shouldn't. I wanted to do a QR code. I said, "Do you make custom QR codes?" "Why, yes, I do." "What do you need from me?" And it told me what it needed, and I gave it all the things it needed. And I said, "Now what I want you to do is change those black squares. I want them circles, and I want them in blue." "Of course. Here's your file." And it gave me the same file back. And I said, no, the three locator squares, I want you to change 15 times in a row. It said, "I did what you asked." I asked it, "Before you send it to me again, check yourself." I checked myself. I did what you asked. It didn't. It lied.
Perpetual liar.
But yeah, so there's that component of it, which I think a human needs to double check what is coming in from ChatGPT. Now, I did use it for my HVAC system for my house. I'm a purchasing guy. I went out to get 3 bids, and I made the mistake of putting my contact information in one of those generators. "Give us your contact, we'll give you 3 bids." And they gave me 8 bids. And I was like, oh, I don't want to go through 8 bids. I put them all into ChatGPT. I said, "Please analyze these. Tell me the pros, the cons." Anyway, there was a lot more to the prompt. It wasn't more than a paragraph. It did a fantastic job of analyzing the 8 quotes. So I think, here's the problem. I'm not knowledgeable enough to understand the mistakes it made, if it made any. But damn, it sounds confident. Whew.
Off the charts confident.
Off the chart. So here's where I'm going with it. AI is an absolute tool to be reckoned with. It does certain things extremely well. The deep fakes, the voice, I mean, the people are getting scammed all the time. It's constantly learning. I saw a thing that I think in 5 years it'll have an IQ of 4,000. Now today, if its IQ is 120, if you have a person with an IQ of 100 and an AI with a high IQ of 120 who's negotiating with a person with an IQ of 120 and the 120 IQ, you add those numbers up and you got a 220 versus a 240. So the 240 has a competitive advantage. But when you extrapolate that out and you have a 100 IQ person with a 4,000 IQ AI and a 120 IQ person with a 4,000, the difference is immaterial at that point. So I'm of the opinion that, and I'm not the first one to say it, some AI will not replace you today, but someone using AI might replace you. And in the future, we're all going to have some type of AI to do the menial tasks. So I'm trying to figure out the best way it works for me and my style and my level of ethics and integrity and workflow and all that kind of stuff.
That's really cool. Yeah, no, I agree. I think AI for the short term is something that you can embrace. You can use it to train with, you can use it to help you, but the human part of your own negotiation skills is this is the most valuable time you could ever think about doing negotiation training, because it's the time when there's this window of opportunity where there is loads of disruption, which actually means opportunity, lots of new businesses popping up, lots of new deals to be made. And with people testing out AI, and at the same time, they're going to need human oversight and human in the loop in the future when it's agent to agent negotiations on pure transactional stuff. But I think, yeah, the stuff that we've been talking about, the win-win, the collaborative, the high expansion, that's always human, right? At the top bit, whether you're doing agent to agent orchestration and you still got the human part that's going to say, I want to do a deal with this person.
Yeah. Well, there is that. You know, all things being equal, friends buy from friends.
Right.
All things not being equal, friends try to buy from friends. You know, it's that, hey, are you sure you can't do a little better? Hey, look, there's purchasing people who will take a bid and show it to their friend who's a competitor. I got this bid from Acme. See, I'm not lying to you. Now, with Adobe Photoshop, you can dummy up any bid you want. So I'm not saying people do it. I'm just saying that happens in buy-sell transactions. Yeah, there's people who are liars and people who are unethical and people who make stuff up. But as we move that into, you know, AI world, you still have to have a person that has to deliver. You know, AI can't drive over and check on the inventory in your warehouse yet. I'm sure Amazon has some way of, you know, their inventory management system, but somebody's got to do the delivery. Somebody's got to sit with the engineers, you know, that office space. I take it from the engineers and I work with the other engineers. Somebody has to be the communicator between the two. AI will get there one day to, here's what I heard you say, but is that really what you want? And go through and do the fine tuning of drawings, of specifications, of processes that go back and forth between companies. But can AI summarize a meeting? Absolutely. Can it say action items? Absolutely. So some of the more menial tasks, I think it's perfect for, and we should use it for that. But you know, talk about, because you're in the AI space now, right?
Right.
What you
right.
So I'm going to go back. In my day, we had reverse auctions. So I don't know if your listeners, I know they're still out there. They're less now. They were massive for about 5 years. That was in vogue thing. And here's the thing about a reverse auction. There's a level of ethics that you can't replicate in the real world, or it's hard to. Meaning, when I put a bid out and I say my opening position for this SOW is 100,000, and one supplier says I can do it at 98. With the right transparency settings, I can let you, Tim, see that your competitor bid 98, and then you can go by the minimum bid increment. You can go down to 96. You can go down to 92, or you can go down to 96 and then 94 and then 92, and you can see the market. I'm not lying to you. These bids are out there. as long as you've pre-qualified, why would I pay more for a supplier
Mm.
who isn't as competitive as my other bids? Now there's some game theory that goes on with reverse auctions, and I'm sure there'll be a whole AI playbook game theory. When your customer is using this, here's what you should do. Here's how to respond. I don't know that I haven't seen the playbook yet. I'm hearing that Walmart's using AI for its long tail negotiations, for the stuff that isn't critical. It's not marketing. They're not doing it for marketing yet.
Of course, no, 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 yeah, yeah.
Well, I think they do it for the ad buys. They're doing it for the transactional buys of advertising, but they're not doing it for the creative work, that
no,
kind of stuff. Yeah.
yeah, no. How interesting! And that's the thing here. There's going to be so many playbooks and new ways or old ways rehashed, and AI is going to help with that. And
Yeah.
you as the man, Mike, this was phenomenal. I could talk to you forever. I know we've been talking for an hour and a half, but like
Yeah, no, I
I
love
could
it too.
honestly, I mean, I love this. I love what you're doing.
Hey, can we talk about Be the Lion?
We
Because
can talk
that
about Big
resonates with
Lion.
me. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's Be the Lion, like looking big, I'm bold, and I want to take it for your listeners. My takeaway is from my career, um, is the ability to try. To
Mm,
so I was working on a bunch of marketing contracts, and again, I was talking about my peer Mark with the coffee. He he said, "Wow, you get to work marketing contracts. That's pretty cool." And I said, "Hey, I got 10 of them in the pipeline because we had 10 properties." I said, "Do you want to take one and just see what you can do with it?" And he said, "Oh, no, I don't want to do that." Now Mark was fantastic at um, linens, and they seem so transactional. You just go buy linens. Well, no, there's the wash rates and how long will linen stay good, and then do they get lost in the laundry? And then does Excalibur steal um, uh, Mandalay Bay's linens from the same washer? There's all this stuff to optimize your spend in linens and mops and brooms and operating supplies and equipment, OS&E, that doesn't happen in marketing. But it was almost like there was a panicked look on his face, like because he was a vice president, and man, if he screwed up,
mm.
that could be a career ender. And I always thought it as, I'm just not. I'm going to try my best not to screw up. I'll learn some stuff. I'll add some value where I can. It won't be perfect right out of the gate, but by the sixth time I do it, it's going to be pretty damn good. But to try a little more, to say to your boss, "Hey, what keeps you up at night?"
Mm.
And when your boss says, "Oh, I hate this project. I hate doing this task. Oh, I hate doing invoicing. I hate whatever they hate doing," to be the person on your team to say, "Give me a week. Let me see if I can make that better for you." Be the lion. Try. I think a lot more people would have a lot better careers if they were lions.
That's
Again, not being big and bold and brash, just saying, "Let me see what I can do with it."
it's correct. It's courage, right? And I think the courage leads to confidence, right? If you courage helps you do the thing, put yourself out there, and then confidence is earned by going.
Is it confidence, or for me, it was a lot of times it was stupidity. Like I was too dumb to know that. I would walk into lions dens and be like, "All right, hey, Mike's here. Let's see what we can do." And uh,
That's well, that's having discernment through experience.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
I need to learn more. I need to learn what rooms I shouldn't be in, because I'll still just walk in. I'll just try. But for me, if I fail at something, oh well. As long as I don't do anything that's embarrassing, if I keep my ethics, if I keep my
Mm,
professionalism, and
mm.
there was a mistake made, a decision made, something like that, I can just say, "I'm sorry." I saw something on LinkedIn about we should stop saying we're sorry. No, 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 no. I say I'm sorry all the time. I,
Yeah,
I'm sorry you're having a bad day. I'm sorry I influenced that wrong. I'm sorry I made the wrong decision. But as long as you're authentic about it, I think more people should say, "Yeah, I screwed up. I won't let it happen again," and then don't let it happen again. But yeah, I think that's another big thing is we should just try stuff. And
embrace.
if we screw it up, oh well. It was already screwed up to begin with, probably.
I like this. I like this. And you touched on a point there just quickly that there's a lot of crap on LinkedIn just because it sounds good. That is absolute bullshit. It's rubbish. And if you actually spoke like that person is, speak like a leader and do this and articulate like that, it's like you're losing all of the humanness that is going to be able to help you influence and actually get to the goal just because it's on LinkedIn and it says this is how you speak like a CEO, or this is what you respond back with. And I like that point about saying sorry. And because you had the wherewithal to try, that's, you had the authenticity to yourself and to the organization. You're putting yourself out there. I love that.
Yeah, I think that's what just understanding that as long as you operate with that professionalism and ethics, that
Right.
I think people will forgive you if it's not perfect.
Intention. Yeah.
Yeah, and they may say, well, that wasn't the best. You're right, it wasn't the best. It wasn't my best work. Next time it'll be better. Right?
Yeah.
Continuous improvement. We'll all
Yeah.
be better off. Yeah.
And that is exactly where we started, Mike, with this. You have a very introspective way of I've seen this even in today's conversation, like the way you choose your language and you correct your willingness to correct your language, even in this conversation, and say, actually, this is better. Like, it was cool. I've picked up a lot from this. I know our listeners have got so much, not only just in the way of value, but I think just the examples that you've given today, like they're some of the clearest, well defined examples that bring together concepts that are thrown about willy-nilly. Like I've thoroughly, where should people go? Where do you want them to go after listening to this if they're
Yeah.
into Mike Inman and into negotiation and becoming better?
First of all, I tell everybody, link in with me. I do not do any marketing, anything like that. I post negotiation related content, or if I see, I don't post stuff about leadership and things like that. When I see somebody posting stuff that might get people in trouble, I will comment on it.
Mm,
Or I will say, hey, reconsider this, or hey, you
perspective.
should, right? Yeah. Because I don't want people making willy-nilly following bad decisions. Anyway, so I come across sometimes as angry, as the angry old guy yelling at the clouds. I just want the younger people and the people who don't have the same experience that I have to think for themselves.
Mm.
I don't have all the answers. But when these self-proclaimed experts come out with, I've got the answers, I'm like, I don't think so. So we should all, take away what we can. And as far as getting a hold of me, we try to keep it simple. Negotiationtraining.com, or you can go to tableforce.com. They're both active. They point to the same place. It's all we do. We don't play in the leadership space. We don't play in the sales space. We stay in our little tiny lane, and we focus on being better and being best at that. And then Mike at Tableforce. If anybody wants to email me, I'm out there. And I love my passion for negotiating hasn't come across, shame on me. So if I can help, and I love helping people. So if I can help people in any way, especially negotiating, I will get something out of it. Talk about the win-win.
Mm.
I don't know if they're going to win. I don't know what advice I'm going to give them. I don't know what questions they're going to have. Let me tell you this. I will win because I will get dopamine. I will feel good if I make the attempt to help somebody. So that's a win-win right there.
Right.
Again, I'm going to get my win, which is trying, and whether they get their win or not, that's up to them.
I love that. And you're having so much fun doing it. I can see that shows it's emanating from you. I have
Yep.
loved this, Mike. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining us and sharing all of this, such valuable insights.
Tim, it's been a pleasure. Anytime. I appreciate the relationship we've already built in this little over an hour we're together.
We are friends, Mike. We are
All right.
100% friends.
I can't wait to get to Singapore. Back to Singapore.
Yeah, actually, seriously, like definitely let me know when you're here, because I wrote a book in 2018 called The Art of Negotiation, and it took off. Like, that was my first book, The Art of Negotiation. And then because I worked as a negotiator for 10 years, but it was at the
Right.
beginning of my career. So it was the other way around. And I was in rooms that I'm now in rooms as in business that are now 20 years later, that at the beginning of my career, I was in those rooms, we're negotiating between commercial directors
Yeah.
and it just blew my mind. I love it. I absolutely love
Well,
it.
Tim, so I thought I was pretty proficient at negotiating when I was full-time in the seat.
Okay. Yeah.
And I wish I could go back and be the negotiator I am today
Mm.
throughout my career, but you can't do that. We're all works in progress. No one is perfect. We're all evolving as long as you want to evolve or trying to evolve. So for you to hear you say, well, that's what I did back then, and now I do something different. You couldn't be as good today without the experience you had back then, because you've been in the seat. So when you talk to salespeople, you
Oh,
come from a position of authority. You're not a trainer who has a PowerPoint who says, bullet number 3, you're like, hey, let me tell you about a time that I was involved with Foursquare. We were negotiating with MGM,
yeah.
and there was this crazy guy, head of procurement in the room.
Yeah.
And the sales in the room, they'll know that because salespeople, they're really good at seeing right through bullshit.
Yeah.
Purchasing people are too. So yeah, that's great authenticity that brings to the table.
It's those stories. Yeah, you're right. Those stories are what helps transfer belief and actually people listen. Make a difference. Mike, friends, I love this. When you're in Singapore next, please let me know. I'll do
And
this.
I'm going to go watch your other videos on being a more likable person for the long term.
Let's do it. Yeah. Awesome.
All right.
Catch you. Thanks so much.
Have a great one, Tim. Thank you. Bye-bye.